You guys should already know what GEMDAS stands for because we talked about it last week, but let's go ahead and fill this in. Okay, G stands for grouping. E stands for exponents. MD stands for multiply and divide from left to right. And I think this pin is dying on me. Okay, and then AS is add and subtract. From left to right. Okay? Now in those three boxes underneath, we're actually going to start talking about those grouping symbols. And the reason we don't use PEMDAS with a P is because parentheses are not the only grouping symbols that we're going to use in this class. Okay? They're not the only ones you're going to see, but they're the most common. So let's go ahead and put in parentheses here. I'm going to write it underneath so I can use the space above it to put an example. Okay, so an example of parentheses would be like this. Okay, now this is not grouping here. This is just telling us that that's multiplication between these two. But the parentheses here and here are the ones that show us a grouping. Okay? So that's another reason why I don't like PEMDAS is because we use parentheses for all kinds of things, not just for grouping. And like I said, there are a lot of grouping symbols that aren't parentheses as well. Okay? The other most common grouping that you're going to see is that fraction decimal, or the fraction division bar. Okay? Got to squeeze it in there. Fraction division bar. So here's an example of that. Okay. So this right here can be referred to as a fraction bar. It can be referred to as a division bar. Okay? It's really the same thing, and I know that sometimes can be confusing because you can look at that and say it's a fraction, but you could simplify it or divide it and make it a whole number. Okay? And I'm going to go over an example of how to simplify something that has this fraction division bar there for you. Okay? But basically, everything on the top is one group. Everything on the bottom is another group. So you simplify the top completely and the bottom completely for that type of grouping. Okay? Now, a lot less common type of grouping would be like a absolute value symbols. I really don't use this very often, but I wanted you to be aware that that is a type of grouping symbol. Okay. So if there are absolute value symbols around an operation, that is also considered a grouping. Okay. All right, if you have a highlighter or a colored pencil or something, take it out. We're going to get some practice here with our grouping symbols. All right, hopefully you have something out to highlight with. If we look back at our order of operations, we're always going to simplify our grouping first, okay? So let's take a look at this first one. You can see I have division and subtraction. Usually we would do division first, but because there's parentheses around this operation, this is the one that we're actually going to do first. So I'm going to highlight that. All right, 11 minus 14 is going to be -3. I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay, and now I have a negative divided by a negative, so the answer will be positive. And then I just need to do 72 divided by 3. And if you're not sure what that is, go ahead and use the space below and divide it. So that goes in 2 times. That goes in 4 times. And it looks like it's a nice even one. So we can say that -72 divided by -3 will be a positive 24. Okay, let's look at the next example here, and then I'll have you guys kind of finish it on your own. We have multiplication right here, so it's -2 multiplied by this whole thing, -8 plus 2, and then plus 40. What are we going to do first? Say it out. Parentheses, absolutely. You have one set of grouping here, so this needs to happen first. Okay, so go ahead and see if you can finish that problem on your own. All right, troops, eyes up here for a minute. Okay, what I'm noticing is that you can do this part, most of you here. You got -6, and then you weren't sure what to do after that. You're like, how do I bring this all down? Well, this right here was multiplication, so it needs to stay multiplication. So I would put parentheses around what I just simplified, and then write everything else down. So that you know, because if you don't put parentheses there, it's going to look like -2 minus 6, but it's not. It's not intended to be subtraction. This is multiplication here, okay? And then -2 times -6 was a positive 12. Positive 12 plus 40 is 52. 52. Okay. You're going to get a chance to practice here in just a minute because your homework is on the back side. So let's take a look, though, about your fraction division bar so that you can see how to simplify that. Okay. You may have noticed that I wrote it in the middle of your box. I do that on purpose. Okay? So that way, for the top, you can solve it up, and the bottom, you can solve it down, and it keeps your work nice and clean. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to completely ignore the bottom for a minute, and we're going to simplify the top, okay? So what operation am I going to perform first on that top? Yeah, and Chelsea? Okay, so you're saying this is the operation we're going to do first then on that top, okay? Like I said, I'm completely ignoring the bottom. So -12, and we can keep it switch like Chelsea was saying. So this will become plus -7. -12 plus -7 is a -19. And then we're going to bring everything else up with us that we haven't done yet. Okay. Now we have 45 plus -19. The signs are different, so we're going to find the difference, right? So 45 minus 19 basically here. So that'll be 26, I believe. Is that right? Is that what you guys got? Yeah? Okay. Now that we have the top down to one number, we want to look at the bottom and get it down to one number as well. Is there a problem, guys? No? Okay. You have 6 divided by -3 is -2. So look at, I got the top down to one number, the bottom down to one number, and now we can simplify it. So this is 26 over -2, which we can actually divide. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 26 divided by 2 is -13. Okay? So what I did is I basically did all my work up like this, all my work down like this, got it down to one fraction, and then simplified from there. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at this next one right here. You have addition and multiplication on the top. Which one are we going to do first, add or multiply? Multiply. Okay, so on the top, that's going to be your first operation. So simplify the top, and then when we look at the bottom, what's going to happen first? There's subtraction and subtraction, but we also have parentheses. Parentheses, good. Okay, so take a moment, try to simplify the top completely, try to simplify the bottom completely, and then get it down to one fraction that you can simplify. Trenton? Anyone else? What did you get? 9? Who got 9? Yes? Yes? Okay. All right, let's take a look. So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And then negative 12 plus negative 15, the signs are the same, so we're going to find the sum. Negative 27. And now I'm going to focus on the bottom here. 6 minus 7 is negative 1. Bring it down. Whenever you're subtracting a negative, it's the same as adding. So it's negative 4 plus 1, so this is negative 3. So negative 27 divided by negative 3. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So I would agree. I would say 9 is the answer there. Okay?